is actually an attack against world peace.
Do you think we can get to below 4 ringgit?
People are committing light crimes.
That Biden is actually the most impressive US president you've ever seen.
Everybody expected it to continue to next year.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Headlines. I'm Mehdi Hasan. Malaysia spends over 1 billion ringgit annually on prison costs for drug-related crimes, with another 166 million ringgit on rehabilitation. The total cost from drug-related crimes, including seizures, amounts to 2.3 billion ringgit. This also includes more than 600 police officers who have been caught abusing drugs in the past decades, many of whom have been dismissed. The Home Ministry has outlined strategies like stronger enforcement, better rehabilitation programs, and advanced technology to tackle this problem. The authorities are focused on strict monitoring with regular drug tests and disciplinary actions. Dismissed officers lose their pensions and are barred from any future government employment. Home Minister Datuk Seri Nasution Ismail has said that almost 20% of police quarters are unlivable and are in need of major repair. Improving the remaining units now, especially in high-rent cities in Kuching, for example, is a priority despite budget constraints. So to get further into this, I have here with me in the studio Malaysia Crime Prevention Foundation, MCPF, Senior Vice Chairman Datuk Seri Ayub Yaakob, who was also the former Director of Crime Prevention and Community Safety at Bukit Aman. Datuk, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. We can discuss and hope to be able to discuss and provide answers to some of your questions.
Certainly, Datuk. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. And later on, next to Datuk Ayub, we have our very own Business Times' Presenna Nambiar to talk about the ringgit. So very briefly, Press, how is the ringgit doing right now?
It has been doing really great actually, but in recent days, we've seen a bit of a tapering off of the ringgit, but I think we've seen a remarkable rally actually.
All right, great news, and more into that later. So back to you, Datuk, on rehabilitation costs and the kind of money we're putting into prison here. So we spend about over 1 billion ringgit on prison costs, with 166 million on rehab, right, annually. So what are your thoughts on maybe perhaps taking some of this money and reallocating it to funds towards funding preventive measures like education and community programs to reduce drug-related offences?
We have been in cooperation with the prisons department, talking about your problem in this month, talking about the overcrowded about cells in the prison. I mean, we have discussing. They can create a lot of other issues coming out because of that.
Yep.
Number one is, first thing is we must provide, even in the prison, we must look into the right of the inmate also inside that. We are also being monitored by the international world. How do we treat these people inside that? This is very important. We got to look into that. Otherwise, we'll be sanctioned because of that. Number two is, of course, the cost. Now, one of the causes why the overcrowding, and the causes by now, from the statistics we see that about almost more than 50% of the inmates is all engaged in the drug-related crime. This is one of the issue. And besides that, so drug-related doesn't mean that only they are directly involved in a drug offense, but they are committing other crime because of their addiction to drug. This is very, very, very serious matter. We have been saying that from the 80s, we have declared abusing drug is the number one enemy in the country. Now until now, still number one. You know, we have been recently. We have been discussing at the ministry level, calling all parties involved to discuss how to see that and how to come up with a new approach into this. One of the factors is that, as you mentioned, cost of 1.15 billion, which is equal to about 50 ringgit a day for every inmate. What the government has to spend in this. This color we can reduce the number to the number, and after, as you said, it can be used for to provide other services for other services.
Right.
For that, that's what we are discussing about it. And the government already come up with some of the proposal that we're going to implement this. How to do it? They're got to see. Some need to look into the law. That we got to know how these people are committing light crimes or maybe finishing their term in the prison, they can be taken out. They have in the prison, so through the rehabilitation, they are also trained to do some vocational work. Sometimes they vet, vocational. They develop some skill that they can be sent to industries. To complete their even after completion their term also, they will be working and they can continue working with the industry. They have been tested. This is already done. This is one of the solution, so that we got to we have agreed, in principle, what to do into the certain thing about the procedures and to that. But all these have been finalized. Education matter of how we're going to implement it. To what the country. Through this, maybe we can reduce the number of solve the problem of overcrowding in the prison. At the same time, we can cut the cost of Nini. At the same time, when they do this work, they are given some allowances. So these allowances they can save when they come out from the prison. Every day have some saving. Some from the after a few cases they come to 40 to 70,000. They have when they come out, they have 70,000 in their pocket to do that, so they can start a new living after serving the prison term. And at the same time, they can continue to serve the public. And we are also doing campaign for communities, industry communities, so that we want them to win the confidence that these people are already rehabilitated. They have turned into, give them another chance, opportunity. So to certain extent, some of them have agreed to it. So now only we got to plan a good system that's already on the pipeline, so that when they come out, the people can be employed by this. This is one way that we thinking that. Actually, in the final stage of doing that. At the same time, we are still to continue with the parole system. They can be taken out to do some what we call it some work outside under the gun. They are still inmates. They are monitored by the warden, but they are taken out to work at certain places, and then from there also they can earn some living. At the same time, this also can reduce the overcrowding problem in the prison.
All right. Okay. Now, Datuk, it's great to know that there's a lot of focus on the rehab part of it and making sure that we prepare them for life after prison, and that they are given enough funds on a second lease on life. But I wanted to go back to the issue of the policemen, cops and officers being involved in drug abuse. 600, that's a big number over like 10 years. So do you think there's an issue here perhaps of how close they are with the inmates, these offenders, drug offenders, because that they are so close together, they are put there together, it somewhat maybe fuels the issue here.
I'm also from the force, and some of our people, we are involved in all kind of operation. Among those, including operation against drug abuse, we are also making a lot of raids to nightclubs and then where drug also consumed at there. Our people are exposed to that kind of situation. Maybe one or two, maybe because of their background, because of certain reason, they have access to this supply of drug. Maybe out of their ignorance or they don't know, maybe they are involved in taking up this drug. That's how they become addicted. But maybe also at the same time, we must look at whoever that we recruit to become policemen. Before that, we must know their background. When during our time, when when we apply for one, we pass the interview before we being recruited. The special branch will come to our kampung and asking about our background, our profile. Then whether we are involved in this, involved in what. I think this one to be reintroduced so that we know the background of the people that want to take as a police officers, a policeman. They are free from all these problems. They are free problems. Now we can see in school also people are involved in drug and so on. So we make sure that those who want to become police officer, they are free from this, and this information can be gathered through them. Even the OC, the officer in charge of police station, they should know that the people. Then when we recruit them, before we offer them the position, maybe the OCS and the officer can engage the people and get the local people and to see whether this candidate is really suitable to be recruited as a policeman. That's one way. Number 3 is that of course because they have access to this. But in the police, we have a very strict discipline. Right? That's why we consider by other services, we are the police is considered the most that how they punish the people amounting to dismissal all the time. So these are the 600 altogether. Now we have 130,000 police personnel. 600 for the last 10 years and 10 years. The number in terms of percentage is very small.
Okay.
But we can afford to have even that numbers of personnel involved in this. That's why we are very strict now. We are very strict. I understand that people are going. That's why the standard JIPS, Jabatan Integrity and standard compliance department is going through all these things. Jadi everything. Therefore, we have no compromise. When you involve in drug, we were sure that the police should take very strict discipline on this, and we hope that more strict procedure to be carried out to make sure that these people who are exposed to this, exposed to this kind of job, this kind of operation, they are not easily influenced to the extent of sampai jadi addicted to the drug.
Sure, Datuk, but I mean, you were talking about recruiting, right? New officers. I mean, it's one thing to make sure they go through stringent, screening and tests and so on for that, and then get recruited.
True.
But this problem, I think, for most of these officers, probably it festers when they are during their service, their service as policemen. So, do you think that for policemen who are on duty and have to deal with these drug offenders on a regular basis, should there be more support for them? Should there be a more robust support system for them, so that we can make sure that they are not vulnerable to being addicted to drugs?
What are the side reasons why they are involved in this? We are beside having access to the kind of the supply of drug, they are mixing around with some drug addict, and people they are handling, the people they are going to the places they are going to, they can configure this place. Sometimes to avoid this thing, first thing like that, remember that they must have a very strong strong
willpower.
Discipline, willpower, not to get involved in this thing.
Right.
The drug is just like any other thing. Never try, never do. Something people just try. You don't ever try this kind of thing. The first time should be avoided.
Right.
When you experience the first time, you must make sure that there's no repetition to that. Once you repeat, you do it again, and then will be the problem. That's the cause of addiction. First, try, follow friend.
Peer pressure.
You want to know how to experience the thing for the first time. Second one, you have access to this. Why not? After more day, I know what is all problem. They will cost me. Then you try for second time. Then third time. Then you got to go addicted to that. That's not the problem. This is the problem. Once you become addicted, then you are a problem not only to yourself, not only to your family, but the organization, the police force, etc. Then you become target of the syndicate. Maybe the syndicate of people, then you become the target. You are become drug dependent. You so much, then you need to spend more money on that. Then your salary cannot cater for this kind of addiction, because of that. And you have access to that. That's the problem. When you abuse your position, and having access to that, you misuse your with accessibility to that, that will cause a problem. That's why sometimes we heard about cases where the drug person or the exhibit lost from the police custody. This is the thing that we got. Another reason, maybe as you mentioned, maybe some mental problem because of stress or that's like that. But we have also in the JIPS, in this department, we have counselors there. They mean people. The officers, the supervisors should know their people, should know their men, the problem. Anything wrong with the men, they can refer them to the counsellors. Say problem. Don't wait until people got caught, then only you know that they're involved. Then at the same time, never conceal this kind of information. That's why we have called what we call is a buddy system. We work as a buddy. We have some close friend within the force. Then the friend is not only as to cater to know what you're going, what to do, but at the same time, when you find that your friend got something other problem like that, quickly advise.
Sure.
Then maybe refer to the superior. Then the supervisor call and try to mediate the situation before it become a problem. So I think this is being carried out there. That we to eradicate this 100%, of course, going to be very difficult, but the number should be reduced. I think they are doing very, very hard now. Now, as mentioned by the minister, so we are doing our hard, not only the outside element, but the inside element is also willing to do that.
So it is a start now.
Yeah, it's a start. They already started actually. Now, but how serious we got to do? Now we got to then we got to look back all the procedures they already in there. Then make sure that all these policies and SOPs that already been introduced should be understood and also to be carried out effectively.
Right. Well, that's something. I think we are happy to know about that. We're starting
in
already.
the police force actually.
And
if you look at the Inspector General standing order, on discipline actually, it's very, very strict. What we need to do is to understand it, to know it, and to enforce it to whoever involved in this thing.
So now that's on the front of rehab and drug abuse. For involving police officers and policemen. Now, moving on to the other part of this discussion is about our Home Minister raising the fact that 20% of police quarters are unlivable, in need of major repairs. So, do you think that possibly, in our earlier discussion before the recording started, talked about how quarters and with the place to live, your accommodation, it's an essential need, essential human need. So could it be that perhaps when these conditions, when the living conditions are not even at an acceptable standard, it leads to all these problems?
In our scheme of service for the policemen, housing is an essential service, must be provided. Houses provided to the policeman, not as for welfare. It is the requirement of the service.
Right.
The service. And every person employed as policeman, they are entitled to a quarters, a furnished quarters, And the quarters should be near their working places. That is in the scheme of service, in the procedure. And last time, we cannot live more than certain distance from the police station. For example, we work in the police station, we must be within the area, jurisdiction of that station. If in the district, we must live within the district of the station. Now we can see some of our policemen got to travel up to from Rawang to Kuala Lumpur, from Seremban even, from Klang even to travel.
Is this because there's
because of the shortage of houses provided? Okay. And as you mentioned just now, as the minister rightly said that only 20% only unlivable. It is unlivable money beyond. We cannot allow the people is not qualified to be occupied anymore. This kind of houses. It is beyond. It's not livable as you mentioned, right? And they are not, because the allocation for maintenance is big, so it's not enough to get for maintenance. There been every year. If you see in the budget, the demand, the proposal, the what we call it, the requirement for the housing maintenance is very, very high. And how much that can be provided to solve this problem. And at the same time, we cannot, until now, we cannot even to say provide 80% houses to the men. I remember when I was in service. At the time, I was in the logistics department. We are talking about same thing. We prepare paper, we do research and do prepare paper. on the housing problem on the police personnel during that period, and very, very serious. Some of our men staying in the squatter houses, those time. How can we do that? So then we prepare this paper, and with all the issues, with all the cases that involved, which involved because of this problem. You just imagine, if the police is scattered everywhere, in the emergency situation, how to grip them within a stipulated time? We are talking about peacetime. That's why we are not bothered much. In case of big disaster, big flood, for example, how to get these people on time to reach and riot, for example. This is the situation. So that is very important. But at the same time, lucky at that time, in the late 90s, we prepared this paper, we submit it to the government, and alhamdulillah, during that period, they special grant, special allocation at the time. 500 million was very big at that time. 500 million was approved. We call it a crash program to solve this housing problem. We do away with the traditional way of acquiring the houses. In this time, we buy the ready-made houses from the developers, So we purchased that time. At that time, we almost solved about 80% of the housing problem at one time. Right. But again, over time, the number of people is increasing, and at the same time, the old houses need to be replaced, need to be redone, got to be rebuilt, and house need to be maintained. Because over time, this can become, and then now it become another problem. And maybe I recommend that another crash program to solve the problem to be introduced and bring back. Mind you, that was the time the Prime Minister was Tun Dr. Mahathir, and Deputy Minister was the present Prime Minister, and he was also the Finance Minister at the time.
Right.
They approved this crash program.
Right.
They recognized this our problem, and the need to have the policemen to be housed in the barrack, in the quarters near their working place. And now I think it's high time to also bring to the government back, and hopefully I think the present Prime Minister also understand. They know the situation then. Maybe now the situation has come back. Maybe it's the right time for him to consider to some allocation, special allocation to solve this housing problem.
Now, moving on to another part of this discussion, I want to talk about border security and the technology that we use in securing our borders. The Home Ministry has outlined plans to strengthen border security using advanced surveillance and AI. And from your experience, obviously from being in the force, how effective is technology in curbing cross-border drug smuggling that would fuel this substance abuse in the first place? Yeah.
Last time I remember, there's a special project, we call it Case Bun, to manage the border. So last time, remember, I think you remember border Malaysia-Thai, we built bridges, built fences, fences along the border. We built fences at our cost. At our cost, we built fences to prevent this smuggling and people moving in and out illegally. Right. Because we got a lot of this, what we call it, lorong tikus. A lot of things. All things, not only, and human smuggling of people also it happened there. Remember the one very serious case happened, we found that the people are buried. All the illegal people before coming, some of them die along the way. Yep. They are buried within our border. They come from our neighboring country, but they are detained there, they are camped there, and someone died there. Then a lot of this grave found there. Then become our problem because they are buried within our border, within our territory. So there's another issue. That is a very serious case. And talking about this smuggling of drug, not only drug, and also smuggling of arms, smuggling of the weapon, all these things happen. That's why now, luckily, recently we have some big conference involving some people. There is nothing good. The present government is looking serious into this problem. That's why we are going. We're calling all parties concerned. We have formed clusters to discuss what are the issues, what are the threats that we're facing now. One of the main things is talking about our border security. That's why the new department is being created to manage our borders. The new created, headed by the former director of KDNK, public order, and then they so now this department is going to take over all this management of the borders, and also all the what we call it, or even in the airport. And they were talking entry point. All our important city entry point be taken over by Timor. But in the meantime, while they're having they are to fill up to build infrastructure for all this, so before they can really 100% take over. So we got to be patient, but at the same time, we got to look into the technology. As you mentioned, technology is very, very important. We're asking for drone, we're asking for CCTV, we're asking for light, along the way. We got to, a lot of things need to be done. Of course, we have limitation. So now it's question of priority. If we see that this is a very, very serious matter that is continuing, then we got to prioritize it.
Sure.
Because every department, every area need fund. So of course now the government has got to prioritize things. Jadi hopefully, and we so grateful to the government. We are also involved in some of the discussion. This is they put it as one of the priorities. As far as Ministry of Home Affairs, this is one of the priorities.
Right.
Besides that, we are also concerned about our positioning ourselves in international world, where we are now among the 10 the most peaceful country in the world. We must maintain that. To maintain that, we must say this is one of the area. We are not talking. We are talking about the smuggling of people. We're talking about smuggling people. We're talking about whether abducting people for the property. The management of we are exploitation of the people, foreigners in the country. This has got to look into this. That's one thing. That's what. Another one, we must make sure that everybody that come in here and work here must be legally. They must be registered, and they are use all the legal process. Right. Then high time for us to look at this seriously. I think when everything is put in place, and as what we have discussed, what we agreed, once the government approved this, I think we got to make sure that every person is account. Kita put into the account, make sure that is another one. Otherwise, people are going to say that, speculate that for every one legal, there are 10 or 20 illegal. Just like drug also. Every pound that we confiscate, there are many 100 pounds more. This has been created that cause a lot of perception. That's another thing. We have got to manage also the negative perception on these authorities. We are working hard. The police are working hard. Everybody working hard. But at the same time, we have got to manage the negative perception. Otherwise, we got to spend a lot just to manage the perception of people.
That's great to know, Datuk, but unfortunately we have to really wrap up this discussion. Perhaps very quickly, Datuk, in the next 3 minutes, I want you to give from your perspective as a crime prevention body, right? What sort of collaboration between agencies, enforcement agencies, do you think we need more of to make sure we can step up our efforts against all of this?
That's our job. That's our function. We are here to create awareness among people and to get people actually involved in combating crime. Right? That's our main function. And we are bridging the people, bridging the all sector community with the authorities, with the government.
Right.
So we got to engage people. That's why I think the strategy of effective engagement has got to be carried out. That's our function, and we got everyone to be engaged in this, so that we're able to manage all the threat, all the challenges they are facing. We got to work together. Everything. We cannot work in silos anymore. We cannot work in silos. All resources must be put in place, so that when we tackle any issue, all the relevant authorities, all the relevant resources should be placed together inside that. We have so many. We have so many institutions. Up to the kampong area, we have the special committee for safety committee, every kampong. But what are they doing? I don't think Prime Minister need to go to a kampong just because someone dead because of hungry, because of do that. What happened to the neighbors? What happened to the committee? We have so many committees at the local, at the local area. Certain things are so small, also need to address this matter to the Menteri Besar. I think the local people, it's high time for us to make sure that all these institutions work together. And this is our job also, as a Malaysia Crime Prevention Foundation, is to create awareness and also to make sure all these institutions work together, and we will try to make them work as a team to solve all these problems and to address the issue and let the government and all the thing handle the bigger thing, international world, and other big matter talking about economy problems, but the institution created do our own at our level.
So it starts
at
from a individual level, all the way
individual
up to
family,
community.
the community.
Definitely.
And these people, and they should share report. We cannot create, just leave it like that.
And get feedback.
Definitely,
yeah.
And then we give them whatever they require, but it must be effectively carried on.
Right.
Money given effectively spent to solve this kind of problem. That's all this issue. That's very important.
Thank you so much, Dato, for all your wonderful in-depth insight into that. We really appreciate your time here on the show. We'll be right back after this with Presenna to talk about the ringgit. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Welcome back. So now on the ringgit. The Malaysian ringgit has seen a remarkable rally spurred by the much-awaited US Federal Reserve rate cut in September. A big first cut of 50 basis points led traders to bet on more such sizable cuts, and China's stimulus measures shortly after pushed the ringgit to become the world's top-performing currency. While there were hopes the rally could carry the ringgit to breach the 4 ringgit mark against the US dollar, it has lost some of its steam recently with heightened geopolitical risks. And joining me here for this is our very own Presenna Nambiar, our business news editor press.
Hello,
welcome
hi.
to the show.
Hi, Hazwin.
Well, I did introduce you earlier, but
Yes.
welcome back.
Yes, thank you.
Now, I want to ask you, what is behind the ringgit's rally? How much of it is driven by local factors?
Okay, so basically, if I could paint a picture, so what happened in February was that February of this year, the ringgit actually hit a almost 26-year low of 4.79, right? So what has changed from then to now, if you look at it from that point of view? Basically, the economy is, the fundamentals are still the same. But what has gone into the economy in the sense that basically all the narratives that were given last year, all the master plans that was announced, you know, the NETR, the NIMP, as well as NSS, all short forms, of course,
Sure.
but acronyms. But basically, it's the National Energy Roadmap, as well as the National Industrial Master Plan, and of course the National Semiconductor Strategy. Right? All these plans, basically, what has happened is that investors saw it coming into fruition. Obviously, it's not the end of the road, but you could see that basically there was a concerted effort to make sure that the market and everyone in the country was aware of what's happening, right? So this sort of helped to convince investors to come in.
Right.
So what we saw was from, I guess, March or April, you started seeing all the investments coming in, right? So that is where I think the local factor comes in. So as you see more money coming into the country, that's where the demand for the ringgit also goes up. So if you look at how the ringgit has progressed from February, I think slowly from April it started getting stronger and stronger until July. I think you really saw it take off. So what happened in July? July was when we announced the rationalization of diesel subsidy. So these are, I think, the local factors that our ministers and, you know, that we are talking about when we say that only by having this base can we convince the outside world that, you know, we are open for business, and that has been our narrative, right? We are open for business and we are ready for business. So that is the local part, actually. But if you look at, I mean, even if you talk to Bank Negara, they'll say the ringgit is actually basically being affected by external factors. That is true, because if you've seen, we have actually appreciated about 11% from the start of the year to September. So what happened in September? That was the rate cut. The US rate cut, which everyone was waiting for. And because it was such a big cut, everybody got very excited. They thought that, okay, if this is the trend, then probably we can see a real rally in the ringgit. So that's what happened there, right? And then shortly after that, China announced some stimulus plans, which actually helped to boost even more the ringgit, because it's our major trading partner, right? So when China does well, we will also do well. That is the whole point of that particular, how that helped the rally. But as we know, because of external factors, and investors are basically all over the world, right?
Sure.
So whatever happens in the world sort of also affects us. It's not a one ingredient kind of like, okay, if we do this, then confirm our ringgit will go up and we'll be back to below 4. If it was that simple, I think it'd be great. But I think what happened recently, in the recent days, was the rising of Middle East tensions, right? So that has led, again, to investors rethinking what's to happen. I mean, the rate cuts are still expected to happen.
Right.
The US is expected to continue to cut rates. But what has happened now is that there's this other wild card now. If things go bad in Middle East, will investors want to invest in emerging markets like us? Or will they be looking at safe haven assets, as they call it, right? The US dollar, things, gold, things that have been proven decades, years, centuries that you cannot go wrong. Yeah. So that is where all this comes into play, and that's why I think, like today, even though I think in September the highest point we hit was 4.099 to the US dollar, but in recent days, like today, I think at 12 o'clock it was 4.2 to the US dollar. So that's the impact that when uncertainty happens, this is what happens to the flow of money, basically.
Would it have anything to do, because you talked a lot about external factors, would it have anything to do with the fact that we are also embarking on partnerships to join BRICS? Talk about the Chinese stimulus plan, and then we're partnering up with all these different set, let's put it that way, different set of friends, allies. Did that have anything to do with the ringgit doing better, faring better?
I think because it's still very early days, so I'm not too. I don't think that is part of the. I mean, when we talk to economists, they don't really bring that into the picture. But definitely, it's basically what happens when we talk to more trading partners and all that. That means that we are getting more investors in. So definitely it helps. But at this stage where we're still talking, probably that might not be a consideration for the ringgit's rally lah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how likely or how much longer is this trend going to continue for the ringgit to keep getting stronger? Yeah,
so basically what happened was everybody expected it to continue to next year.
Right.
But now with Middle East tensions rising, that's the wild card, right? So you've already seen in the last 2-3 days how it has impacted, right? From 4.09 and we were going towards 4, below 4, and now it's back to 4.2, which doesn't mean that it will not get better later. But in the short term, until we sort of see how things go there, it looks a bit,
But by year end, do you think we can get to below 4 ringgit? Or below 4 points, rather?
Well, the economists seem to think so, but that was before the Middle East happened. So
and you see this as not achievable, not likely, not by year end.
By year end, they are still expecting. I mean, there were no changes. Basically, what happened was when the rally started.
But I mean, in hindsight, with what happened in the Middle East recently, essentially, war was declared.
It can happen because, like you see, in that one quarter, from July to September, it went up 11%.
Okay.
In one quarter. So that's why I think Bank Negara always comes out to say that we are our strength is being determined by external factors. So it can be as fast as that. In one quarter, I don't think anybody expected that. I think prior to the rate cuts and all that, we all knew it was coming, but I think everybody wasn't sure what was going to happen. So the best, I think, was 4.55 by year end, 4.3 best. And here we are at 4.2. And it's already because of some tensions, you see. So that's the thing about what's happening here. It can go up really fast.
Fingers crossed then.
Yes.
Let's hope for the best. So the Middle East conflict obviously serves as a little blip, but hoping that we can get much stronger from here on out. Now, we're still going to continue with the show. And since we brought up Gaza, the Middle East conflict, we are going to continue to talk about the escalating tensions there in the region, Middle East, especially between Palestine and Israel, as well as all the other neighboring Arab countries. So for that, I'll be joined by my co-host Amalina Kamal in just a bit. Stay tuned. Hello everyone, welcome back. So joining me in the studio now is my co-host, Amelina Kamal.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm happy
Nice
to
to
be
see
here on
you
this side
back
of
on the sofa.
couch.
Yes,
this
so
side of the set.
You just had an interview with someone very important, didn't you?
As you know, October 7 is coming, and October 7 also marks a day that the Israeli Front, they have been utilizing that particular date to justify, their atrocities. Israel also has, expanded its, extremism into southern Lebanon. This particular disaster, or at least crisis, is not necessarily targeted towards Palestinian alone, and it's not necessarily towards Hamas or even Fatah, it's actually an attack against world peace. We do have the full interview on our NST YouTube line with the ambassador of Palestine to Malaysia, His Excellency Walid Abu Ali. So this is where we caught up with him, and it will be aired.
Interesting stuff there.
I was told that you had a particular interview with a certain British MP who came over to Malaysia recently, and you spoke a little bit about the crisis in the Middle East, right?
Yes, I did. Now, so speaking of championing the Palestinian cause, obviously one name that comes to mind, for me at least, is Mehdi Hasan, and I was very fortunate enough to have met him last weekend at the annual HRDC's National Human Capital Conference and Exhibition, NHCCE. So this year the theme of the conference was on the role of artificial intelligence, or AI, in the workplace. And Mehdi, he was actually one of the guest speakers. So yeah, I had the chance to grab him aside and have a little short interview with him. So just as some background for those who don't know, Mehdi Hasan, he was previously with MSNBC, and last year his show, called The Mehdi Hasan Show, was actually cancelled by the US TV news network owned by the US broadcaster NBC, national broadcaster. And it came after an episode that was particularly a bit too pro-Palestinian. Let's put it that way, right? And so this cancellation came after that episode was aired. Mehdi, of course, is no stranger to the Palestinian cause, but him being cancelled here by the supposedly better, more progressive, left-leaning legacy media, as opposed to something like Fox News, that Mehdi himself has called these mouthpiece for the GOP, or the Republicans in the US, just highlights how divisive this Israeli war on Gaza is. Now, it's important to note, though, that neither Mehdi and MSNBC have attributed the show's cancellation to his outspokenness. MSNBC has only said that it's cancelled the show to make way for new programs. And Mehdi has said that he wants to just set out and venture out on his own and start up a new media company that's independent, which he then doesn't have to answer to the media corporate overlords, and to be dictated on what he can or cannot say. So I'm going to show you a little excerpt, a clip from my interview, very short chat with him last weekend on just that, wondering what he makes of it all, this cancellation, and what he plans to do from here on out with his new media company, Zeteo, and also what the future holds on the two-state solution in the Middle East, if ever we get to achieve it at all. So let's take a look. Now, you've said in the past about the Fox being sort of the mouthpiece for the Republicans, but how is it now that you've left MSNBC and you have said just now, you said that you're disagreeable, and perhaps everyone would agree that it was probably because of your outspokenness, that you were asked to leave or your show was cancelled, whatever it was, right? So where does that leave your views on MSNBC? Where does it leave them now?
Leave who?
The legacy media, especially for more of the left-leaning legacy media in the US.
Yeah, I think legacy media, left-leaning media, whatever you want to call it, MSNBC, the New York Times, whatever, I don't think they're as left-wing or liberal as people make them out to be. I've worked there. They do great journalism. Let's be under no illusion. There's some great reporters at the Times, some great people at MSNBC that I worked with. But the reality is that this is all corporate media, right? MSNBC is owned by NBC Universal, Comcast. Fox is owned by Rupert Murdoch, CNN, ABC and Disney. Excuse me. So one of the reasons I set up Zeteo is I don't want to be in the world of corporate media anymore. It had a great run. Again, I'm not saying it's all bad. There's a lot of good stuff that they do, but it's not enough. We can see that in public distrust of the media. You can see that in some of the stories that don't go deep enough. You can see that in some of the scandals surrounding legacy media. So I think there is a gap in the market, right? From a pure business perspective, I wanted to leave MSNBC and start my own thing because I thought, look, there's an audience that's not being served, there's output that's not being made, and there's a model of media that can be done that doesn't rely on corporate backing. So we are a self-funding, subscription-based business, and we're able to do progressive journalism, I think, in a better way than the legacy media.
Great. And I think you made that clear in your debate with the former Israeli spokesperson, when probably wasn't him personally, but someone did say, ask over and over again where you got your funding from.
John Levine of the New York Post.
Exactly. I think that was very well answered.
Back and I said to him, we're not funded by Qataris or foreign governments. We're American funded, American investors. But the interesting thing is, who are you to set yourself on a moral pedestal and judge others? Look at who funds legacy media. Look at Fox in the United States. Look at The Sun and The Times in the United Kingdom. It's Rupert Murdoch, one of the most pernicious influences on our media, right-wing billionaire who has undermined democracy in multiple countries. So, it's time for us to go on the offensive, not defensive. A lot of us have been defensive for a long time. And I think what Gaza has done is reminded a lot of people that, again, legacy media does some good work, but it also does some awful work. It also doesn't cover things it should cover. It pulls its punches. It doesn't use words like racism, fascism, genocide, which need to be said about our current environment. So that freedom that I have now is all about using the platform to say what needs to be said.
One last thing, if I can. Now, on Piers Morgan, which, by the way, great appearance on the show, and as you said, rightly put, you absolutely smashed him. He asked you, out of the two presidential candidates in the US now, which of the quote-unquote, I'll rephrase it, lesser of the two evils do we have to choose from now? Now, you said in an interview with The Guardian that Biden is actually the most impressive US president you've ever seen, right? I think he's let you down a little bit, hasn't he?
I said that March 2023 when I was promoting my book and I was in an interview with The Guardian, and I said, look, as a lefty, I'm absolutely surprised at how many things Joe Biden has done that I agree with. Ending the war in Afghanistan, the Inflation Reduction Act, record amount of investment to fight climate change, the bills he's passed more than any president since LBJ in the 1960s. He has a very impressive domestic record. And on foreign policy at the time, I said he'd ended the war in Afghanistan, he had avoided putting American boots on the ground in Ukraine. He wasn't Donald Trump. Obviously, October the 7th happened. And Biden's posture on Israel has been an absolute scandal, a moral travesty, a geopolitical disaster. Look at the escalation in the Middle East just this week. We're on the verge of an all-out regional war, God forbid. And he's gone from being, a not bad or quite good foreign policy president to being one of the worst foreign policy presidents in modern American history. We have a genocide in Gaza that he enabled, he enarmed, he funded. And that is a problem. So last year what I said, I stand by on the domestic front, but on the foreign policy front, absolute disaster. Now, to come back to the question you raised and Piers Morgan raised, the choice in November is between two people. Jill Stein is running as a Green Party candidate. A lot of Muslims love her in America. I've interviewed her on my show at Zeteo. She wants to end the war in Gaza, end the genocide. Problem is she's not going to win. She's going to get 5% max, 4% of the vote. It's only going to be two people who are president, either Kamala Harris or Donald J. Trump. What Morgan asked, what Piers asked, is who was more likely to do a two-state solution. I think both candidates are awful on the Middle East, right? There's very little to choose between them. The political scientist John Mearsheimer recently said Tweedledum, Tweedledee when it comes to Gaza. Both parties are pro-Israel. But the world is about more than just Israel. So if you ask me on the climate, on healthcare, on social spending, on child poverty, on a whole multiplicity of issues, of course Harris is better than Trump. That's indisputable. And separate to any issues, she's also mentally competent. Donald J. Trump is not mentally competent to be president. You wouldn't put him in charge of your kid's school, let alone put him in charge of the world's only superpower with nuclear weapons. The man is clearly off his rocker. He's 78 years old. He's not fit to be president. So my position is that's a much more dangerous possibility, as much as I condemn the Democrats on Gaza.
Right. Mehdi, thanks so much for speaking to me on NSC. Thank you. Yeah, that's pretty much it. My very brief chat with Mehdi last weekend. So
before we end the show, I just want to highlight this. I don't know if I highlighted it earlier, but I also actually got numbers here in terms of the casualties and damages, especially in the last year alone. So you've got, as of September 30th, you've got more than 41,000 Palestinians being murdered. Mm-hmm. Among them, 16,000 of them are actually kids, and 11,000 of them are actually women. And health workers included, about 885, journalists, frontliners here, 170, plus 83 of civil defense workers. So that's just those who are killed alone. But injured, right, it's almost reaching 100,000, people there. I can just say the numbers here, but, human lives are not just statistics. Yeah,
Right, yep.
The international community, it's actually up to the international community to take some sort of like resolution, in terms of maintaining the peace in the Middle East, because ripple effects are experienced everywhere else in the world. And you see a lot of governments who are actually inclined towards being an ally of Israel, having to realize that no peace is at the expense of someone else's suffering. So
Now, I just want to get a bit philosophical here. It's to keep that order in place.
Yeah.
In defensive realism, that's what we call it, when countries, nations are struggling, for power, everyone wants to be at the top. So it's very important to keep that order in place. So this is why we are faced with this.
hopefully the UN Security Council is able to come up with at least, seeing a full membership being, offered to the Palestinian side.
For sure, certainly.
Yeah.
Well, Amalina, thank you so much. Thanks for joining. And I know you had to rush back here. So
But it's always a pleasure to be here on set.
Of course. Always appreciate your company here in the studio. So that is it for our episode this week. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel, the channel you're watching this episode on right now, and hit that like button if you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to also follow us on all the socials. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and X at NSC Online for more news and updates. So that's it for today. Thank you so much to everyone, as usual, for watching and being loyal viewers of Beyond the Headlines. Until next week, I am Mehdi Hasan, and you're
I'm Alina Kamal.
saying goodbye, and thanks for watching.